Yo, 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 Jake Talk, Josh and Johnny. What up, Josh?
What is going on, sir? How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Great week. No, kick butt. You've been killing those people on the Zoomies. How those Zoomies doing?
Well, the Zoomies, they're working hard. A lot of them, most of them, I would say 90% are working out 5 days a week, maybe even six. Now, I'm not seeing the Saturday morning classes, but, from what I'm seeing, these Zoomies are staying consistent. Zero excuses. That's how it has to be if you want to get to those fitness goals. Doesn't matter what's happening in your life. Got to get it in.
That's right, baby.
Cool. We got a
Let's talk
Q&A
about
today. We got a nice Q&A session. You all ask questions in the Facebook group, and we're going to give you our answers, J-Talk style. Hopefully you'll get two different perspectives from John and I. And
No BS. No BS.
no BS. We're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it raw. This isn't scripted. I'm really looking at these questions for like the first time right now. So let's see what y'all ask. All right. We got Dwight. Big Dwight. Oh, I'm loving those push-ups too. You saw him in the pirate costume?
Yeah, great. Yeah, everybody getting Comic-Con up.
Yep, that was epic. Dwight says, what are the differences between front lunges and back lunges? What are the benefits of each?
So there are, I feel like there's a couple ways to tackle this because there are like that's an interesting word, a front and back lunge, because you could talk about two different things. You could talk about taking a lunge forward, like that's a front lunge.
Right.
And the back lunge would be like
a reverse.
Right. Or you can talk about a front racked barbell lunge or a back racked barbell lunge. So I think that we should just
go into both. I thought he was asking about front rack and back lunges. But like you said, that question could be answered the other way too, if you're taking a forward step or a backward step. So let's just talk about the forward and backward step first.
Okay. So in my experience, I don't like moving in the lunge. I don't like taking a step forward and then resetting and taking a step forward. I think that's just like a waste of time for me personally. So if I'm using actual weight, like if I'm at the gym and I'm hitting like 60-70% max, I'm never going to be moving forward and backward like that. I just don't think it's safe balance wise to balance the weight on you unless you're a little more advanced. Okay, cool. But if you're using lighter weight, you're taking a forward step versus a back step, then in my experience, the people taking that forward step, they tend to lean in a little bit more and put a little more pressure on the legs and the quads. So you're gonna hit a lot of quads on that forward lunge. It does also get glutes and hamstrings, but in my experience, it's gonna be a quad-based movement. You're pushing off with that leg on the back, which is leg extension, which is you're getting a lot of quads again. So I feel like the forward stepping lunge is going to get a lot of quads. So people like with achy knees, like, oh, lunges, they hurt me. Well, probably because you're getting a lot of quad action. You're getting the
right. And when you're taking that forward step, for those of you that have knee pain and back pain, your knee is traveling forward over your toe a lot of the time when you take the step forward, and then you're also pushing off that same leg to bring yourself into the original position. So a lot of you that struggle with knee pain in the lunge, it could be because you're taking the step forward and then you're taking the step back, and not every single time it's consistent. Maybe like your rep 1 looks different than your rep 4 taking the step back, and that can bother your knees a little bit too. And then my opinion on the reverse lunge is, you just talked about how you get a lot of quad activation from the forward step. You get a lot of glute and hamstring activation from the backwards step, just because when you take the step backwards, right, the majority of the weight is going to be on that back leg when you're taking the step backwards in the reverse lunge. So just by the simple mechanics of the lunge, right, you're going backwards, more weight's going to be on your hamstrings and your glutes, and you're not getting that forward knee travel like the front lunge. So for those of you that do have knee pain or even back pain when you do a lunge, try taking a reverse lunge or stay stationary.
Yeah. And then just like Josh talked about, you're taking that backward step. Usually your body is more upright because you're stepping back. So your body, like you step forward, the momentum going forward usually pulls your body forward in that front lunge. You're stepping back, usually that momentum keeps your body a little more straight. So sometimes you'll get a better lunge out
Right.
of that back. So if you have lower back pain, and you're like, oh, but why does my lower back hurt when I do front lunges? Well, maybe because you're leaning in too much.
Mhm.
Try a reverse lunge, and that'll help straighten out your body a little bit more naturally.
Right, right. But I agree with, especially if you're doing heavy lunges, you want to stay stationary. Just keep that leg forward. But
Right.
there is you still want to be able to have the ability to take a forward lunge, and you should know how to perform that exercise properly. It's a little bit more dynamic because you're moving, right? You have weight on your back and you're moving forward and back. But
Right.
if you're lifting heavy, right, you're doing over 70% of your 1 rep max, just keep that same leg forward, and it's going to save you time. You're going to knock out more reps in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. So speaking of just staying forward, let's talk about the front racked versus the back lunge. How do you feel about both those exercises?
Well, front lunge, working that front rack position, having that bar in front of your body, whether you're doing a squat or a lunge, it's putting way more emphasis on the front of your body, your core. You got to keep yourself upright. You know, your core has to be strong. Your quads have to be strong. You have to have a strong upright front rack position, because when you go for a forward lunge or even a front squat, if you've got a weak thoracic extension, and when I say thoracic extension, that's your ability to pretty much keep your chest up and your elbows up at the same time. If that's weak, if you're doing heavy enough weight or you're fatigued enough, that weight's just going to drop. Think about whenever you max out a front squat and, you know, maybe you have problems with your front rack position, you feel like your elbows are just falling, like the weight is sliding off your shoulders. So working the front lunge is going to build that. It's going to get that thoracic extension stronger. It's going to improve your front rack position. It's going to work your quads and your core more than having the bar on your back, which is going to be loading your posterior chain, which is like your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back, you know, all the muscles in behind your body, your posture muscles, pretty much. So just like the back squat, you're able to do a little bit more weight versus having the bar in front, in my opinion. But they're both great exercises. You should implement both of them, because one of them is going to be working predominantly the front of your body. It's still full body though. And then back squats is going to be, or back lunges are going to be working more of your posterior chain.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I did front squats and front lunges and back lunges for many years, almost every day. I hit legs every day, like building up to a 1 rep max and coming back down. And I 100% agree. When you're in that front rack position, you have to stay upright.
Right.
It's like your body's upright. You can't be leaning in like that. Like, you're going to feel a ton of strain on the back, and that's not going to feel good. So it's going to help you keep a better posture alignment. You're going to get the core a little bit more, and definitely get those quads more as well.
Right.
And from my experience, like from going just from like, I'll do a set with front racks, and then I'll go right into a set of back lunges, and I'll feel my glutes a lot more. And usually when I'm going into that lunge, I'm slightly leaning in when it's in the back position to balance my body out, and that really hits the glutes, man. Like I feel my glutes a ton when I lean in a little bit, opposed to keeping straight up and down with the front racked.
Yeah, and then also another way to look at it is if you struggle with your front rack position, you just want to do as many exercises with that position so you can get it stronger. So if you have a hard time with the front squat, you have a hard time with your clean position, just include more exercises that are going to use that same position. So you can do a front lunge. Maybe your goal isn't to attack your quads more, it's just to improve your front rack position. You're just getting more practice with it.
I agree, 100%.
Good question. You got to do both. You got to do both.
Yeah, good questions. Let's
we got Monica.
Yeah, let's see this next question here.
Got Monica Fleming. Her question, she says, when is it better to do higher reps with lighter weights or fewer reps with heavier weights? What are the differences and benefits of each? That's a great question. That's a great question, Monica.
So high reps with lighter weight. And I mean, let's define light.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can answer this question, right?
Yeah, like my definition of light that's actually useful is going to be like at least 40-50% of your max. Like if you're hitting 20% of your max, 10% of your max, in my opinion, you're just maintaining baseline strength. You might even be regressing a little bit. you might actually, like, especially if you're in a calorie deficit trying to lose weight and you're hitting lightweight higher reps, you're either maintaining or I don't know, maybe even slightly losing some muscle on that. I mean, it
If
just
you're lifting
depends
too
on
light, if you're lifting too light, you're losing muscle. Straight
yeah,
up.
I don't know. I'm kind of I don't really know how I feel about super lightweight. I don't feel like it's effective in any way. Like maybe if you're an absolute beginner, you can maintain weight or maybe build a little bit of weight. Like maybe 6 months into training, okay, maybe that worked for you. But I think an effective lightweight would be at least a 50% of your max, because that's pretty simple. You can get 10 to 20 reps out with that, and that's tons of volume. And that kind of volume is going to help your muscles grow. You're going to break down the muscle effectively. If you're doing high reps, you give enough.
Right.
You're getting really deep into that muscle. What do you think?
Getting that, yeah, higher reps, 10, 12, 15. I mean, some studies would argue doing more than that could still build muscle. You're in muscle hypertrophy, which is the growth, the breakdown, and the muscles repair themselves through recovery and they get bigger, right? Higher reps are going to target muscle hypertrophy more. And then you have, strength building, which comes from heavier weights, reps of 3, reps of 5. I mean, you could argue that you can even go higher than that, right? Lifting heavier weights is not necessarily hitting the muscular system as much, like getting your muscles to grow. It's building your nervous system, which is it's your brain sending signal. So when you're doing a squat, you got the weight on your back and it's heavy. Your brain sends signals to the rest of your body, to your muscles, to say, all right, we need to give this more force so we can lift a heavier weight. So you're pretty much building your brain's capacity to produce force. That's what the nervous system does in strength. When you lift heavy, you're strengthening your nervous system. So it's like, all right, this 200 pounds for 3 reps was super heavy last time. Now my nervous system is stronger. Let's see if I can get this for 4 reps or multiple sets of 3, right? Now your nervous system is stronger. The muscles aren't necessarily getting bigger though, right? Because it's 2 different systems. Now you need both, because if you get stronger, now you have the ability to take the lighter weights for more hypertrophy, but you can do more weight for more reps now, right? If you're stronger, you can do 10, 12 reps with more weight than versus if you never strength trained in the beginning, now you're not that strong. So your 12 reps is a lightweight, if that makes sense. Now, the reason why doing high reps is good, like working for more hypertrophy, getting the muscle bigger, because a bigger muscle has more potential to be a stronger muscle, right? So you need both. Any program has both strength training and high reps, a combination of the two, because both of them it's stimulating your body in 2 different ways, right? But strength training also builds muscle, and high rep training also builds strength. They go hand in hand. You got to do both.
Right. And I feel like, so there are nerves that connect into each muscle.
Right.
And if you're doing lightweight training, 50% max, all those nerves aren't going to be activating. So like Josh says, your neuromuscular system gets challenged. Like your neurons are firing more. Like you might only activate half the neurons in your leg that are saying, leg, do this movement, if you're doing a lightweight. But then when you lift a heavier weight, now you have a 70, 80% max. Now you have to get 80, 90% of the leg neurons firing, as well as all the core muscle neurons, all the muscles in your calves, all the muscles in your back. So now you have more neuron recruitment, which means your brain has to work a lot harder. You have more body parts activated. So it challenges your nervous system a lot more. Just like Josh says, is instead of acting 50% of the neurons, now you're getting 80 to 90%. It's like, whoa, like it takes it out of you mentally. Like you go through like 3 really heavy reps, you like rack up and you're like, dude, I'm exhausted. Like,
yeah, you're lightheaded.
Like I walked in the gym and I've seen Josh lifting almost 500 pounds, and he'll do like 3 reps and he'll just be like, his eyes will be bloodshot and he'll be like, oh my God, I just fucking died.
Yeah,
I'm like, I know, man, that looked like a challenge.
Straight up. Yeah, I didn't even, that's a great point. I didn't even hit on muscle activity. You're activating more muscles or more muscle fibers, more recruitment, the more force you have to lift something with, right? So if when we're doing slow, controlled reps, higher reps, lightweight, You're recruiting muscles, but it's different if you were to grab a heavy weight and then use all your force to get it up. So,
Right.
but like we said, you got to have both. You got to have lightweight and you got to have heavy weights.
Totally. And you know what? A lot of weightlifting programs focus on one or the other. Like that's why here at Fitness Forward, we like to incorporate all aspects of training. You'll see a lot of gyms, they'll do a lot of cardio stuff. You'll see some other gyms, they only do like super heavy stuff. And like Josh says, to be athletic, you want to have a balance of it all. You want to be able to lift heavy and do moderate to heavy for high reps. So definitely a good benefit for both, Monica. Good question.
Yeah, and I was one more thing to add on to that. And one of the benefits of lighter weights, especially if you want to get into like different heart rate zones, work on more conditioning, you're not going to be able to get your heart rate really high you're not going to be able to do a lot of reps with heavier weights. So for the sake of trying to build your cardio up, if let's just say you want to do a high rep set of cleans and you're going to superset that with like some kind of jump squat or burpees or something like that, the lighter weights, so you can, maintain good form and also get that heart rate up, is going to be more beneficial than having like your 1 rep max in the clean. That's not going to get your heart rate very high. So lighter weights, can be tailored more towards conditioning type stuff, and heavier weights obviously are tailored towards strength training.
100%. Great question. Let's talk about this next question. Vin, this is you. What are the pros and cons of increasing reps and decreasing reps exercise? We kind of just went over that. And another thing is how to determine the optimum weight when doing as many rounds as possible to ensure we do as many, like 3 to 4 rounds. So again, that's a subjective question. Everybody's weight that they're using is going to be different. That's why we always encourage you to log your workouts. That's why we log them in the gym. That's why we log PRs. In general, if you're trying to do as like a volume workout or like a conditioning workout, hit 50% of your max. That's a good conditioning weight, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Josh?
You said 60% of your 1 rep max?
Yeah, 50, 60%.
Right. Yeah.
So like, 60 is a lot of weight. That's still a lot of weight. Maybe some days you're going a little bit lower.
No, 100%. That's a baseline for building strength, building more muscle. That's a great starting point, 50 to 60%. And that's the importance of tracking things. And different weeks, Vin said, to ensure we do 3 to 4 rounds, different weeks are going to require a different effort level from you. There's 3 or 4 rounds. Is that rounds of 4 reps? Is that rounds of 10 reps? Is that Tabata style? It depends on what kind of workout we're doing. I think what also Vin's asking, because this week we did a lot of circuit training. We did go through the group as many times as possible. That kind of stuff is more like pacing yourself.
Exactly.
You want to, it's nonstop movement kind of a setup. So you want to pace yourself and keep moving and make sure you can continually keep that pace, right? It's all about the pace. So you can go through as many rounds as possible. It's not so much about the weight, especially with the Zoom workouts. You have a 20-pound dumbbell. If I do a 20-pound dumbbell long enough, I'm going to get fatigued. I'm not going to have anything left in the tank when I get to that 5th and 6th round. And that's kind of the point of these workout setups, is that you're going to hit a wall eventually. Now, when it's a different setup, maybe we're doing 60% of our 1 rep max for as many reps as possible. That's when recording that's the exact reason why we record. So you can see what you did last time. And now you're like, okay, cool. Let me try to beat it by 1 rep. Okay, cool. Let me try to get an extra round in. Right. So I think, it just depends on what we're doing. That's a subjective question.
It's very subjective, but in general, like you're talking about the Zoom workout, your goal for Zoom workout is, number one, just to stay consistent with working out when you're away from the gym, and just keep your heart rate up. Like Josh said, pace yourself. Like you're not going to be hitting PRs at home with your 20-pound weight. So your goal is to keep your heart rate. Like if you have a watch, like we jokingly say, set your watch your calories. But if you're working out between 130 beats per minute and 150 beats per minute, the whole hour, that's going to be a phenomenal workout. And if you're taking a lot of rests in between, maybe your intensity is not there, or maybe the weight's a little bit too high. I mean, obviously not in the Zoom workouts, but goals in the Zoom workouts, just keep your body moving. Don't get stuck sitting at home not working out.
Right, right, and just the way we're setting up the Zoom workouts, it's challenging for everybody. It doesn't matter what fitness level you're at. You know,
Right.
we're incorporating so many different methodologies so you can get the most out of that 20-pound dumbbell. Versus if
Right.
we were in the gym, you know, we can load up a barbell with 60, 70% of your 1 hour max, and we don't have to do as many of the other things that we're incorporating in the Zoom workout. So we're just making the workouts as accurate as possible with the tools that we have. With the tools that we
100%.
have.
Yeah, and just like Josh says, we're adapting as coaches to train you in different ways during this strange time. So in the gym, obviously, we're going to be a little more methodical about picking weights and selecting weights
Right.
and hitting different numbers. But at home, we're just saying, all right, how can Josh and I make the workouts the most effective for somebody with weight and with no weight? There's some people who work out with water. You like water bottles, like, that's you're not going to be hitting PRs with that, but
Right.
we're talking about different aspects of training.
Yes, sir. Great question, though, Vin. Great question.
This next question is great. What are the most effective exercises to reduce/lean out the hips and lower back handles? Gosh darn it, I love handles.
You could hear her say that. Karina, I can hear your voice saying that.
Gosh darn it. not gosh darn it, but something else.
That's funny. All right,
Josh, what do you think about that?
It would be a perfect world if it was like Photoshop. You know what I'm saying? Like I could put my body on the computer, and I could get the color, the tracing, whatever pencil.
I mean, I do that every day,
And I could make my shoulders. I could just go like this, bloop, and then it just fills in. And then I could go here and I could make myself a little more shredded, give myself a better bicep peak.
Right.
I think what Karina is asking if she can Photoshop just one area. And I'm not making fun of Karina right now, but you can't really spot reduct an area. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's talking about lower back, like leaning out the lower back. The only way to lean out the lower back hip area is to get overall leaner. You got to lose body fat everywhere, right? You lose body fat. It's not just, all right, the legs here, the hips here, the whole body has to lose body fat. Now, lower back in love handles, especially for women, that's natural to have some body fat back there, right? Like you just had a child, Karina, it's part of the process. Your body changes, so you have more fat down there. But that's also one of the last areas that gets lean, especially for women, right? The lower back fat, belly fat, So that all comes down to nutrition and lowering your body fat percentage overall.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about Karina. She just had a baby a couple months ago in quarantine. Like, she's already looking shredded again.
Exactly, shredded.
Your body just went through something crazy. It just gave birth to another human being. You just created another human being, and your hormones are going to be way off.
Right.
Like, way off. So maybe you're storing a little bit more fat in your stomach area because you needed it when you had a baby. You're growing a baby, man. Maybe it might stick like that for several months after giving birth. That's why people have hormonal issues, postpartum depression, and crazy stuff go on. Why am I storing fat here now when I didn't before? Well, shoot, your body, you just grew a human.
Right.
Things are going to change.
Right. And it took her 9 months to have the baby. It's going to take a while for all that stuff to get back to normal, right? Normal with quotation marks, because like we just said, Karina, you're looking great right now. You're looking ripped. You're already back in the gym. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to stay consistent and obviously make sure that you're eating right. And that'll go back to what you want it to be. Like, it's going to take a long time though.
Right. And you know what? Everybody has certain pockets where they store. Like me, it's right in my lower back right here. Now, right now I have a 6-pack, but I got a pocket of fat right here that I see when I run, and when I can feel it jiggling when I'm running, and that takes forever to go away. Like, that won't go away until I'm super shredded. Like, that probably won't even go away at that point. I'm still always going to have a little pocket there. So some people store it here. Some people store it here in the chest. You see guys with like man boobs. Some people store it only in the stomach. That, like, you see some of these guys, they got like a huge belly, but they're skinny everywhere else. Like, what the heck's wrong with this person?
Yeah, like for me,
only store in their legs.
right? Like for me, I hold a lot of fat in my cheeks, like up here.
What a terrible place to
That,
hold it.
no, but if I gain, my life is hard, man. My life is hard. But like if I gain a little bit of weight, people will notice it in my face. Like, oh, your face looks like it's a little bit chubbier, you know. And I
Yeah.
also store it in my lower back too. But like John said, everyone's going to be a little bit different. But most of the times when you're like, oh, I'm having a hard time getting rid of this area as body fat, that tells you, right, that's the place that you hold fat the most, right? It's the place that you're like kind of self-conscious about. Oh, why am I holding fat in this area but not anywhere else, right? It's the last place to go it's the last part of your body to tighten up, especially when you're losing body fat.
Right. And you know what? That takes discipline in the diet. Like Josh said, and obviously, Karina, you have discipline in the diet. If there's anybody who's got discipline, Karina,
100%.
you got that discipline. So just stay consistent with what you're doing, and you'll slowly get back to that shape. But being patient, you just gave birth. Give yourself a little bit of credit for that. Like you got 3
A
kids
lot,
now.
a lot of credit. You got to give yourself a
Yeah.
lot of credit.
Right. All you moms out there, like you moms are like trying to get these like hardcore crazy bodies after you give birth, and sometimes it takes like a while to get back at it. Like don't be so hard on yourself. Now you have to teach a child how to be a human.
Exactly.
You got to teach a child how to learn, and now you're trying to lose body fat too. Like give yourself some time to
Right.
adapt.
Well, there actually is one. There's one way you could spot reduct though that we didn't talk about.
Yes, let's talk about it.
You could go under the knife, right?
Go under the knife, baby.
You could go under the knife if you really want that place to be no more body fat. All right, go under the knife, but that's not a great decision. People go under that and they regret it because they don't build the discipline, they don't build the habits to maintain something like that. It's just like a magic trick almost, right?
Right.
And then a lot of times
oftentimes it makes it look worse too. Like
yeah.
I know this girl, she came into the gym and she got liposuction on her arms. And I was like, she's like, look at my arms. Don't they look great? It was kind of weird looking. Now they had like a cut through here and like kind of fat pockets were hanging out of one side. And I'm like, it doesn't look normal. She's like, yeah, it was only 5,000. I'm like, what the hell? You spent money on that? I wouldn't take that for free. She was really overweight in every other part of her body. And I'm like, that's the worst way to go about it. Like, talk about like that girl's probably heavier today. This was 10 years ago I met this girl.
Right.
I mean, it's a sad story right there. So don't get stuck in that trap.
Right. 100%. But yeah, keep working hard, Karina. Karina's like one of the most beast women we have at Fitness Forward. 5 a.m.er, consistent, just dominating. Keep doing your thing, Karina.
Crushing it. Let's go to this next question. Just progressive overload. Well, that's just a training strategy, right, Josh? I mean, that's kind of what
progressive overload, and that's what she just put progressive overload. So we'll just talk about that. Wasn't a question, but
so progressive overload. Basically, each week you add a little bit of weight, or you add a little more volume to the previous week. That's it.
Right.
Get stronger.
Be better than last time. What it comes down to. The iconic picture of progressive overload. I forget which. John, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a guy carrying a mule up a mountain. He's like a skinny guy and he has a baby mule and he's carrying it on his back up the mountain, and he carries the mule up the mountain every day. And the mule keeps getting bigger as it gets older. It starts to weigh more. And so the guy has to carry a heavier mule every single day. So he starts getting stronger.
Right.
And that's pretty much what progressive overload is. Think about the mule of whatever exercise you're doing. Every single time you do that exercise, every time you go up that mountain, you want to add a little bit of weight to it. It's not just it's not only about weight though. There's a lot of different ways you can progressively overload. You could add more weight. The mule weighs more now. You could go up the mountain again with the mule. He weighs the same weight, but you try to run faster with it. You try to shorten the time. Maybe you're shortening your rest breaks. Instead of carrying the mule one time out the mountain a day, he carries it twice up the mountain a day. That's increasing your sets with the same weight. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use progressive overload. And it's not about just adding more weight to the bar, because if that was the case, then all of us who've been lifting 5+ years would deadlift and squat and bench and whatever 1,000 pounds if we increased weight every single time.
10,000.
Yeah, you can progressively overload your form I don't think people talk about that a lot, but getting your form better, right? That's not necessarily going to get you muscularly or improve your strength, but technique is super important for progressively
Crucial.
overloading, right? You want to get better technique, and that's going to allow you to lift more weights. It's going to allow you to have more longevity, stay injury free. So you can progressively overload a lot of things. When you're talking about running, you run a mile in 6 minutes, and then you run a mile in 5 minutes and 59 seconds. That's progressively overloading. You ran a mile one day, you run a mile in a half the next time you do it, right? You're just getting better.
Exactly. It's like, let's take a push-up, for example. You do 10 push-ups 1 week, and then the next week, you maybe do 12 push-ups. Or maybe that next week, instead of doing just 10 push-ups, you put a 10-pound weight on your back and do 10 push-ups. And then maybe instead of just doing 10 regular push-ups, you do 10 scorpion push-ups. Like those are all ways to progress. You just progressively overload it each day there.
Right.
So
right.
whichever way you want to do it, it's just, you're not doing the same thing, in other words. Like you're not just hitting 10 push-ups for 500 weeks. You're only doing 10 push-ups. Like you're not going to get better. Like the goal of progressive overload is to get stronger, essentially. That's just the basics. And obviously, who doesn't want to get stronger?
Right.
Like who just wants to stay the same? What's the point of staying the same? That's where people get so bored.
Right. And progressive really. So Monica asked the question about heavyweights and lightweights, right? Which one's better? So progressive overload comes into play again, because now when you're lifting heavy, you're going to progressively overload your heavyweights. And then when you are in another phase, now you're doing high reps. Now you're progressively overloading what you're doing for high repetition. So you're always going back and forth. But the goal in mind is always to improve. It doesn't matter what form, how many reps, what form of fitness you're doing, how many reps you're doing. If you're running, if you're biking, in your head, you should think, I'm trying to get a little bit better than last time. And there's a lot of different ways you could do that, like what we just talked about.
Yeah. And obviously, oftentimes that's when people fall in love with fitness. They realize, whoa, I got a little bit better. Whoa, I did more reps. Oh, I can do a push-up on my toes now instead of on my knees. Like, then you're like, oh, holy cow. And then obviously tracking what you did so you can remember, because I don't remember what I ate for dinner last night. Like, how am I supposed to remember what I did for a workout 4 weeks ago? There's no way I remember.
You've been getting progressively overload since you were born.
Exactly.
Now you just gotta do that. Now you gotta do that same thing with fitness. You were born, and then you started crawling, and then you started walking, but you kept falling, and then you could walk without falling. Progressively overloaded. You went to school, and they taught you your ABCs and how to count to 10, and then they started teaching you addition, subtraction, and how to spell your name. Progressively overloaded. Now you're doing geometry, algebra, calculus, progressively overloaded. You know what I'm saying? You were walking, you learned how to ride a bike, a tricycle, then you put 2 wheels on that bad boy, and now you're driving a car.
You're in the circus.
And now you got progressively overloaded. So you just got to take that same mindset and apply it to your fitness, right? Just be a little bit better. Just be a little bit better.
Yeah, and the great thing about the fitness is you can take it for a lifetime and never stop growing. That's why people love working out, because they realize they get better and better. It's not just some workout where you're like, oh, I gotta do a cardio workout, it's gonna be so boring, and blah blah blah. But no, just track what you did last week and just do a little bit better, and then a year of doing that, and you're a new person.
Exactly. And then also, you don't always have to progressively overload. Right. There's weeks, straight up, sometimes months, where I'm just in the gym, just doing whatever I want to do. I'm not lifting heavy. I'm not really focusing on anything besides just getting a workout in to clear my head. That happens to me all the time, honestly. And then there's times where I really want to get stronger and get faster. Then I start progressing. I'm tracking everything to the T. And there's sometimes I don't track at all. I just go in the gym and clear my head because I like it. It's fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. Good question. Let's talk about this next. This last question is like 9 questions in one.
Let's dive in.
So Alana, I've lost weight during this time. Gained some muscle and toning up a bit all over, but I've lost some booty. Unhappy face. What are some ways to maintain and grow the glutes while also slimming and toning? I've also heard that carbs help grow the glutes. So how do you maintain a diet that is healthy without going over in calories? Or should I be thinking about calories, not be thinking about calories and focus on macros? And then one more question.
Mm.
Can you get rid of belly pooch and make it completely tighten up with good exercise and diet? All right. So let's target the first one. Is
All right. All right.
how do you make,
So,
how do you maintain and grow the glutes while slimming and toning?
okay. We just talked about progressive overload, and I'm pretty sure you've been, Lana, another consistent beast during these Zoom workouts, Zoomy, hitting it 5 days a week, going hard, right? You said you've built some muscle, toned up a little bit, you've lost some of your glutes, and part of that is because we're not doing like heavier, heavy squats. We're not doing heavy deadlifts. We're not doing heavy lunges to really build those glutes so they can get strong. You're not really building the muscle as much as you could be with the Zoom workouts. And that's just because, you only have those 20 pounds or however much weight you have, right? You were still able to build some muscle and tone up. But if you really want to focus on certain areas, you've got to use compound movements that are heavier, right? And it's like having that mule on your back and it weighs way more and you're carrying it up the mountain versus having a little poodle and you're running the poodle up the mountain. You know what I'm saying? So you need heavier weights to build the glutes, right? More specific movements, great movements for the glutes. I already went over deadlifts, sumo deadlifts, hip thrusts, lunge variations. Those are just the basic ones I can think of off the top of my head. A lot of single leg exercises, right? Single leg deadlifts, single leg glute bridges, bunch of things you can do for glutes, right? When you progressively overload, you get strong at those glute dominant, hip dominant movements that also incorporate the hamstrings. Grow the glutes and also slimming and toning. That's kind of like two different things. So when someone says slimming and toning, to me, they're trying to lose body fat. And when you're trying to lose body fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit, right? You need to be, burning more calories than you're consuming. But if you want to build muscles, like the best way to build muscles is actually to be in a surplus, right? Eating more calories than what you're burning. So it's hard to do both. The only people that can do both at the same time are newbies, right? Because they've never lifted before. So they can eat a little bit or eat a lot and build muscle and lose fat at the same time. The more advanced you get, and this doesn't happen that way. You kind of have to pick one. So you either have to like add a little bit more body fat so you can build more muscle, build the glutes, build other areas, or you drop down or you lose the body fat, and also you're not going to be growing muscle as much.
Right. My suggestion is this. I say get as lean as possible first. Get lean. Stay in a caloric deficit. Maintain your body. Maybe build a little bit. Like if you're a year in training, you're still a newbie. If you're 2 years in, you're still a newbie, in my opinion. So you'll probably still gain a little bit of muscle. You're probably not going to lose a ton of muscle, like if you're in a caloric deficit. But pick one goal and get to that goal, and then you can start body shaping. Like if you have 20, 30 pounds to lose that weight first, and then pick up the calories because your body's going to respond better because you ate healthy for a year. Your body understands how to eat healthy. It's the composition of your genes have probably changed. That's like gene expression. You're eating healthier. Your body probably works better. It probably powers through fat better. So lose all the fat first, or a lot of it, and then you can start increasing the calories slowly and growing those muscles. And then going through the phases that Josh and I go through are bulking and leaning phases. Like Josh bulked on 30 pounds roughly. I lost 30 pounds. But I do that on a yearly basis. I'll gain 20, lose 20. I'll gain 20 for half the year and get stronger and build muscle. And then the next half the year, I'll lose it all and get shredded again. So those tactics are a little bit more advanced. And for right now, for where you're at, if you want to lean out more, focus on that. Just focus on maintaining what you have. And yeah, your butt's going to look a little bit smaller because you store fat there as well. You store fat in your hips, your thighs, your upper body. So as you lose body fat, you're going to realize, oh, maybe my butt wasn't as big. That happens with girls a lot of times. They lose body fat. I'm like, oh, my butt's small. I used to like it when I had fat in there because it was a little bit bigger. and then they realize, wow, maybe I need to start toning it up more. So when they lose body fat, then they're like, okay, now I want to gain strength and gain muscle. So separate those goals out and you'll have better results instead of being wishy-washy, like I want to do both. Like, we all want things quick, and a year of training is very short in the grand scheme of things. So really focus on one. And then if you decide I want to gain muscle, gain strength, talk to Josh or I will give you some help on like your macros, which is really simple, or just slowly increasing the calories and increase your weight training. So that's it's not just as plain as simple as, oh, I want to grow the glutes and slim down.
Right. She talked about she talked about counting calories versus counting macros. They're like this. They're like the same thing, in my opinion, pretty much. If you count macros, you're counting your protein grams, you're counting your protein, carbs, and fats, and you're counting those macros. It's gonna give you a calorie amount, right? Like you count them all up, and it's gonna, let's say you're at 2,000 calories with the macros that you're given. Now, if you eat 2,000 calories and don't count macros, right, you're gonna see your macros for the 2,000 calories that you ate, because you should be recording either way, whether you're counting macros or counting calories. Now, there's different breakdowns, right? Different percentages of how much protein you're going to have in your diet, how many carbs you're going to have in your diet, how many fats you're going to have in your diet. All that stuff can be played around with. Personally, I count calories, but John counts macros.
Right. Or either or. Let me screen share something for you real quick. Let me show you my macros. So let's check this out. So here are my macros: 47% carbs, like 461 grams of carbs, 168 grams of fat, and 142 protein. Look at that protein amount, 14%. It's tiny. Look at the next day. Oh wow, 9. Look at very, very, very little change there. Like look at that, 50%, 182 grams of carbs now instead of 400. Whoa, what happened there? Look at that. Oh, those are the days I didn't log, 58.
Right. You get your body is so smart and intuitive. You think if your body, let me put it this way, okay? You're eating protein, carbs, and fats. Your body does amazing things with all those things, right? You think your body is like, when it doesn't have enough protein, it just goes into, it's like, we don't have enough protein, and it starts freaking out, and all your systems and your whole entire body freaks out. And I think you're muted right now, John.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So your body is so smart. Even on low protein, it works efficiently at an optimal. It works efficiently. If you have low carbohydrates and high protein, your body's not just looking around like, what are we going to do? We don't have enough carbs. We can't do it. That your body makes what it has available work, right? Carbs have a protein sparing effect. So you can have low protein and high carbs in your body, because it has carbs in its system, is able to utilize protein more efficiently, right? And the same thing goes for all the different macro breakdowns. Right? Your body is smart. As long as you're eating enough food and you're getting a balanced diet, all that stuff is going to work itself out. So you shouldn't be a slave to macro counting. Like, I must get exactly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or your body's it's smart, right? It can operate pretty much on anything. You have homeless guys out there who are surviving eating scraps out of a trash can, and they're walking around and they're eating less than 500 calories a day, and they're surviving. You know what I'm saying? So, you shouldn't put too much stress on the macros, but make sure you're getting enough calories.
I feel like the macros mean more when you're a lot leaner. Like if you're in the 10s body fat percentage, like 15, 14, 13, 10%, then when you change the macros, you might see a difference in your body. Like right now, I'm cutting out my carbs. I'm bringing them to 100 carbs a day or less, because I want to flush out water weight, which is going to show my abs more. So instead of retaining water in my skin, which is normally good, you want water. Water's good. Your body's made of 70% water. But right now, I want to flush it out so my body maintains less water so I could see the six pack a little more. You know, so that's a strategy I'm using. And a lot of bodybuilders do it that way. But don't listen to a bodybuilder if you're overweight. If you're 30% body fat, 25% body fat, you shouldn't be doing the same strategies. That's a bodybuilder. That's the wrong way to go about it. So counting macros and being like Josh says, oh, I must have 1 gram per pound of muscle, of protein. Dude, there are some days when I get 50 grams of protein in. Like, there are some days I get 500 grams of carbs. There are some days when I hit 200 grams of fat, when that's like a huge no-no to a bodybuilder. Like, oh, you know, you shouldn't be getting that, all the water retention. Shut up. Like, don't preach at me. Every body is different. So those macro strategies, focus on whole foods. Like, if you're eating chips and graham crackers and like you're drinking an alcoholic beverage a day, like, you should be focusing on those things instead of like, oh, how many macros should I get?
Right.
Like, you only target macros when you've nailed in everything else. When you're eating, you're making all your own meals. You're not going out to eat but once a week. You're not drinking like one or more than one drink of alcohol a week. You're logging. Like, that's when you hit the macros. You're like, okay, I've got everything else dialed in. So now counting macros will be easy, because people are like, oh, well, I keep eating all these processed foods and all the calories are all over the place. Well, no kidding, because it's processed junk. So unless you're eating whole foods, you can't even really calculate your macros very efficiently, because who knows what's in that processed junk that you're eating. Labels say one thing, but the labels are not regulated, like, ever. You think that the health industry is honest? Look at how many fat, overweight, and sick people are. They're here to keep you a slave to your Pop-Tarts you eat every day. So I wouldn't believe anything that's on the nutrition label. Nothing. Like, that's junk.
Right. No, 100%, 100%. You got to focus on a lot of the little things. Just, I mean, a part of it too is just having your diet be consistent. You know, and that's going to make it easier for you to track and manipulate certain aspects of your diet. Is just by keeping things simple. Like, we talked about it not too long ago. I eat the same. I have 5 meals that I eat out of the 15 total that I know how to cook. Right. And then if I get kind of bored with those meals, I'll choose another 5 and I'll eat those. But it's so easy for me to take carbs away from here, add more food here, do this here, because I'm eating the same things all the time. Right. But if you're just switching it up all the time, your macros are going to be, if you're trying to count macros and you're eating different foods every day, your macros are going to be impossible to count. You're going to get frustrated and quit, because you can never hit your macros if your foods are different every single day. And if you're counting calories and you're eating different foods every day, you're going to give yourself a headache. It's the same thing. You're not going to be able to track it, right? Because you're going to be like, oh, I can't eat this. Let me throw this in. It's going to be super hard to plan things out if you're not eating the same things every day. That's like having a job, and every single day you're using a new system. Right? Every day they give you a new system, and you have to learn the system in the beginning of the day, and you're not going. That's not efficient. Right?
Sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible, right? Like, it's not efficient. So if you're eating the same same foods every single day, it's efficient. You know what's coming. You've already planned ahead.
Josh, what if every day you came in, we did a different job for you? Like, all right, Josh, you're coaching people today. Tomorrow you're doing swim lessons.
Except
then,
like, here's
the next day you got babysitting for 12-year-old people with Asperger's syndrome.
That's actually
you're teaching history tomorrow.
That's the perfect analogy, man. Because, like, a lot of you wake up in the morning and you're like, I wonder what I'm going to eat today. La, 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 la. And you go through the whole day just kind of guessing what food you're going to eat. Oh, I kind of feel like this. Oh, I kind of feel like this. That's like, I go into Fitness Forward, and John's like, all right, Josh, this is what I got for you. You're going to go and clean the tires off of Enterprise next door. Like, we're going to help Enterprise out today. All right, tomorrow you're going to go down to Kickforce. JC needs you to hold the bags.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to keep it the same. You got to keep it the same.
Right. It's like, why do you think when we do a workout structure throughout the week, we keep it the same structure, so that you understand the structure and that you can implement it in the future? Like, if we were coming in, all right, we're going to do a random random exercise workout today, and then tomorrow it's going to be completely different, and then tomorrow it's going to be cool. Like you guys would be like, this is kind of like there's no. It would be not fun.
How would you track that? How would you track that in your folder? Ask yourself.
You
How would
wouldn't.
track that?
You wouldn't, right? And
And
then you.
there are some programs that are like that.
Yeah, a lot of other programs are like that, unfortunately. But great question, because man, we just hit a lot on the head with that. Another one that she said is, I hear some carbs help you grow the glutes too. I haven't heard of that actually, so I'm curious at where you've heard that.
Mm.
I've never heard of that. If there was such a thing, trust me, there'd be an ultra billionaire out there selling the shit out of it, and everybody would know about it. So I disagree with whoever.
I'm sure there probably is a supplement that says take this and it will grow your glutes. Like just like my I have there's pre-workouts that I take, and on the pre-workout they are smart with supplements, guys. They're smart with food. The people making these supplements and food are geniuses. They have a whole marketing team that are trying to hit a certain demographic. They know that, you know, young men trying to build muscle and get strong quick. That's their demographic. I look at this bottle and it says #1 pre-workout. Serious athletes take 2 scoops. Will increase your bench press. That's exactly what it says on the bottle. And I'm like, it's gonna increase my bench press, and I chug the whole thing, and I drink the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
A lot of these supplements, different products you see on Instagram, like there's people selling waist trainers, there's people selling like little bands you put around your knees to help build the glutes and all that kind of stuff. Like they're attacking a certain demographic. They know that's what you want to hear. They're just telling you what you want to hear, and they sell you.
Because if it actually worked, trust me, there would be millions of people touting the benefits of it. Millions, not just thousands, millions. Because that's how many people are invested in fitness. Fitness is I don't know how many billion-dollar industry it is, but it's crazy. Just the supplement business. We're not talking about the food industry and the marketing that goes behind your foods, but man, if there was a carb to grow my glutes, you better bet damn know that Josh and I would be on it. You know, Josh and I want to grow our glutes.
Right.
This ain't just a female thing. Like I want to have a strong ass. Like my deadlifts will be better. Like I want my ass like yours, Josh. You know, you got those glutes.
I got them glutes. I got them glutes.
So yeah, I think we hit it. I think the last question was, how do you get rid of belly fat? How do you get rid of belly pooch and make it completely tighten up? Again, that's constant. You can't really spot reduce. And as far as you mothers out there, we're talking about skin elasticity. If you're talking about like when you have a baby, your stomach expands, and sometimes the stomach has an elasticity point. Like you can stretch the skin only so far before it can't come back to its normal elasticity. And some women have more problems with it than others because genetics will show you that everybody's skin is different. Like if you pinch, like I've pinched thousands of people every year, thousands of people, and everybody has different skin thicknesses. Like some people have really thick skin. Like I'm like, sometimes I'll pinch someone, I'm like, wow, like this is a thick skin measurement. Like it's not going to be as accurate because your thin is literally thicker versus somebody like me. Like my skin is thin right here, like super thin. So it really depends on your skin elasticity. If you can completely tighten back to like pre-pregnancy, that just depends genetically. And again, that comes down to your nutrition and diet. Like Josh and I were saying, you can't spot reduce, but you can get lean through your diet.
Mm-hmm. And by getting stronger, lifting over time, you're going to be building muscle all over your body, right? And so as you start to get leaner and you spend time, building muscle, you've been consistent, then you're really going to see what your true physique looks like when the body fat gets lower. But you need the body fat a lot lower to really make that assessment about yourself.
100%. And that's all your questions, Alana. Thank you for those great questions.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions here who's listening? You guys have been awesome. These have been really great questions.
Now we got Leanna in here. Who else we got in here? Monica. We got Vin.
Yep.
Not sure who
great Anybody want to chime in? Let you
Hey,
chime in.
you know, if you have any questions, every single day of the Zoom class after the class, I'll get questions, but ask them in the group. I'm sure a lot of you have the same questions. I get a lot of the same questions from a lot of you.
Yep.
So feel free to reach out to me in the Zoom classes. Send me a direct message, right? And we're gonna be doing more of these Q&As because I like this.
I like this
answering all of your questions, and you can see how consistent these questions are. A lot of you have questions that are asked in a different way, but it falls under the same umbrella.
Yeah, I love that. Great questions. Thank you guys for coming in. J Talk, baby. Every Saturday coming at you with some good stuff, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace.